On the eve of a forced marriage to settle a whiskey debt, Lena Holt flees her cruel uncle and a ruthless suitor. But the shadows of pursuit close fast, and not everyone is her enemy. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The night air in Gravebrush Gulch was thick with heat and judgment. Lena Holt wiped sweat from her brow as she crept through the shadows behind the saloon. Her heart pounded so hard, she was sure someone would hear it. This was her last chance to escape. At 23, Lena had known nothing but hardship since. Her parents died, and her uncle took her in at 15. Now that same uncle had promised her to Arlo Sykes, a man old enough to be her father, just to settle a whiskey debt. "I won't be sold like cattle," she whispered to herself as she reached the stables. The roan mare nickered softly when Lena entered. She pressed a finger to her lips and stroked the horse's muzzle. "Quiet now, girl, we've got a long ride ahead." Her fingers trembled as she lifted the saddle. Not from fear, but from anger burning inside her. Anger at her uncle for treating her like property. Anger at Arlo Sykes for thinking he could buy her. Anger at this whole town for looking the other way. Lena had just secured the saddle when she heard a floorboard creak. She froze. "If you needed to run," a man's voice said from the shadows, "you should have taken me too." She spun around, reaching for the small knife hidden in her boot. A tall figure stepped into a shaft of moonlight, streaming through the stable window. It was Beau McCade. Everyone in town knew about Beau, the quiet cowboy who kept to himself, mending fences and tending cattle on Old Man Harlan's forgotten stretch of land. His broad shoulders filled out his worn shirt, and his eyes were serious beneath the brim of his hat. "What do you want?" Lena hissed. "You fixing to turn me in?" Beau shook his head. "No, ma'am." "Then what, you want a reward?" "I don't want anything except to help you." Lena let out a bitter laugh. "Nobody helps anybody in this town without wanting something in return. I'm not most people." Beau took a step closer, hands raised, to show he meant no harm. "I saw you once before behind the dry goods store. You were hurt." Lena's hand went to her lip without thinking. She remembered that day. Arlo had grabbed her, tried to kiss her. When she pushed him away, he'd backhanded her so hard her lips split open. "That was months ago," she said. "I should have helped you then. I didn't. Been regretting it ever since." Lena studied his face, trying to find the lie, but all she saw was honesty in those steady eyes. "Why would you help me now?" she asked. "Because nobody deserves to be owned, and because—" he paused. "Because I know what it's like to want to disappear." Something in his voice made her believe him. Still, Lena hesitated. "Arlo Sykes isn't a man who forgives," she warned. "He'll come after me." "Let him try." Beau moved to a stall where another horse waited, already saddled. "I've been planning to move on anyway." Lena realized he'd been preparing to leave too. "You knew I was coming?" "No. But I heard talk in town. About the wedding. About how you didn't have a say." Beau adjusted his saddle straps. "Figured you might try something, thought I'd be ready just in case." Outside, a dog barked in the distance. Lena knew she had to decide quickly. "We need to be gone before dawn," she said finally. Beau nodded. "We will be." They led the horses quietly out the back of the stable. The town was mostly dark, with just a few lamps still burning in the saloon windows. Music and laughter drifted out, but nobody was paying attention to two riders slipping away into the night. Once they cleared the edge of town, they mounted up and urged the horses into a trot, then a gallop. Lena didn't look back. There was nothing for her in Gravebrush Gulch except pain and a future she couldn't bear to think about. They rode hard until the first hint of dawn colored the sky. Beau finally signaled for them to stop near a small creek, surrounded by cottonwood trees. "Horses need water," he said, dismounting, "and we should rest a bit." Lena slid from her saddle, her legs stiff and sore. She hadn't ridden this long in years. "How far do you think we've come?" she asked. "About 20 miles. Not far enough." Beau led his horse to the creek. "Arlo will send men after us as soon as he realizes you're gone." "My uncle too," Lena added bitterly. "He won't like losing his payment." Beau's jaw tightened. No man should trade a woman for whiskey. They fell silent as the horses drank. Lena splashed cold water on her face, then sat on a flat rock near the creek. Now that they'd stopped, the reality of what she'd done hit her. She had nothing but the clothes on her back and a few coins sewn into the hem of her dress. "Are you hungry?" Bo asked, offering her some jerky from his saddlebag. She took it gratefully. "Thank you. It's not much. It's more than I expected." Lena chewed slowly. "Where are we headed?" "North," Bo said. "I heard there's land for homesteading. In Wyoming Territory. Good grazing land." "You want to be a rancher?" Bo nodded. "Always have. Just needed the right time to start." He paused. "What about you? What do you want?" The question startled her. No one had ever asked what she wanted before. "I don't know," she admitted. "Just freedom, I guess. A place where no one owns me." "That's a good start." They rested for an hour, then mounted up again. The sun was fully up now, baking the land with its heat. They kept to less traveled trails, avoiding the main roads where they might be spotted. Around midday, they stopped in the shade of a rocky outcrop. Bo studied the horizon behind them. "See something?" Lena asked nervously. "Not yet, but they'll be coming." He handed her his canteen. "We should keep moving." As they rode, Bo told her about his plans. He'd been saving money for 5 years, doing extra work whenever he could. He had enough to buy a small plot of land and some cattle to start a herd. "Why didn't you leave sooner?" Lena asked. Bo was quiet for a moment. "Wasn't ready, I guess. My pa was an outlaw. Died in a shootout when I was 12. My ma and I were always running, always hiding. When she passed, I promised myself I'd live quiet, stay in one place. But now you're running again." "This is different," he said. "This time it's a choice." They made camp that night in a small canyon, where the firelight wouldn't be visible from a distance. Bo caught a rabbit, and they roasted it over the flames. "Tell me about your family," Bo said as they ate. Lena stared into the fire. "Not much to tell. My pa was a farmer. Ma helped him work the land. They both died of fever when I was 15. My uncle was the only kin I had left." "He treat you bad from the start?" "No, just didn't. Care much one way or another. I was another mouth to feed." She pulled her knees to her chest. "It got worse when Arlo started coming around. My uncle owed him money from gambling, lots of money. So he offered you instead." Lena nodded. "The wedding was set for next month. Arlo came by yesterday talking about the house he'd bought us." Her voice hardened. "About the children he expected me to give him." Bo's face darkened. "No wonder you ran. I'd rather die than be his wife." Lena looked up at Bo. "Why did you really help me? The truth." Bo poked at the fire with a stick. "That day I saw you behind the store, with your lip bleeding. You didn't cry. You just stood there, wiping the blood away, looking like you wanted to burn the whole town down." He met her eyes. "I recognize that look, seen it in my own mirror plenty of times. So it's pity then?" "No." Bo shook his head firmly. "Not pity, recognition. Something passed between them then, an understanding that went beyond words. For the first time since her parents died, Lena felt someone actually saw her, not as property or a burden, but as a person. They spread their bedrolls on opposite sides of the fire. Lena lay awake for a long time, listening to the night sounds and wondering what tomorrow would bring. She was almost asleep when Bo spoke again, his voice soft in the darkness. "Lena?" "Yes?" "I'm glad you took me too." The next morning they rode out before sunrise. Bo seemed more alert, constantly scanning their surroundings. "You think they're close?" and Lena asked. "We need to be careful," was all he said. By mid-morning they reached a small trading post. Bo told Lena to wait with the horses while he went inside. He returned with supplies, food, ammunition, and a plain blue dress for Lena. "Thought you might want a change of clothes," he said, handing it to her. The simple gesture nearly brought tears to her eyes. "Thank you." The man inside says there's a posse from Gravebrush asking questions one town over, looking for a woman who stole a horse. Lena's stomach clenched. "Arlo, most likely." Bo mounted his horse. "We need to keep moving." They rode hard, all day stopping only to rest the horses. By evening they reached a river too wide and swift to cross safely. "We'll follow it north," Bo decided. "There's a ferry crossing about 10 miles upstream." They made camp in a dense grove of trees near the riverbank. After eating a cold supper, they didn't dare light a fire. Bo took the first watch, while Lena tried to sleep. She woke to Beau's hand, gently shaking her shoulder. The moon was high overhead. "Your turn to keep watch," he whispered. "Wake me at first light." Lena sat with her back against a tree, listening to the river and watching the moonlight play across the water. For the first time, she allowed herself to think about the future, not just running away, but what might come after. Could she really start a new life? Would she ever stop looking over her shoulder? And then there was Beau, a man she barely knew, yet somehow trusted with her life. She glanced at his sleeping form. In sleep, his face looked younger, less guarded. The sound of hoofbeats in the distance jolted her from her thoughts. Lena froze, straining to hear. There it was again, horses, several of them, moving along the riverbank. She crawled to Beau's side and placed her hand over his mouth as she woke him. He was instantly alert, hand going to his gun. "Riders," she whispered. "Coming this way." Beau nodded and motioned for her to stay low. They crept to the edge of the trees, peering out at the river. In the moonlight, they could see 4 men on horseback, moving slowly along the shore. Even from a distance, Lena recognized one of them, a man named Cord, one of Arlo's hired guns. "They're tracking us," Beau whispered. "How did they find us?" Lena's heart raced with fear. "Must have guessed we'd head for the ferry." Beau pulled her back deeper into the trees. "We need to move now." They gathered their things as quietly as possible and led the horses away from the river, keeping to the shadows of the trees. Once, they were far enough away, they mounted up and rode hard to the north, away from the posse and the ferry crossing. "Where are we going now?" Lena asked when they finally slowed. "There's another way across," Beau said. "An old Indian crossing about. 30 miles north. It's dangerous, but they won't expect us to go that way." They rode through the night, stopping only when the horses needed rest. As dawn broke, they found themselves in rough, broken country, a maze of small canyons and rocky hills. "We'll hide here during the day," Beau said, leading them into a narrow canyon. "Travel again at night." They made a cold camp in the shelter of an overhang. Beau took out his field glasses and studied the way they had come. "I don't see anyone," he said, "but that doesn't mean they're not out there." Lena sat down, exhaustion washing over her. "Why are you doing this, Beau? Really? You could have just let me go alone." Beau put the glasses away and sat beside her. "When I was a boy, after my pa died, some men came after my ma and me, said my pa owed them money." His voice was quiet, steady. "We ran for 3 days, finally got cornered in an abandoned barn. I thought we were done for. What happened? A stranger helped us, a man who had no reason to risk his neck but did it anyway." Beau looked at her. "He got us to safety, then disappeared. Never knew his name. But I promised myself that someday, if I ever saw someone who needed help the way we did, I wouldn't look away." Lena studied his face in the early morning light. "Is that the only reason?" Beau held her gaze. "No." The simple word hung between them, filled with meaning neither of them was ready to put into words. "Get some sleep," Beau said finally. "I'll keep watch." Lena lay down on her bedroll, too tired to argue. Despite her exhaustion, she found herself watching Beau as he sat at the entrance to their shelter, rifle across his knees, his profile strong against the brightening sky. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know if they would escape Arlo's men or what would happen if they did. But for the first time in years, Lena felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. As she drifted off to sleep, Lena realized that when Beau had said, "You should have taken me too," he wasn't just offering help. He was offering a chance at a new life for both of them. The sun was high in the sky when Lena woke. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back: the escape, the pursuit, Beau. She sat up quickly, looking around the small canyon shelter. Beau wasn't there. Panic gripped her as she scrambled to her feet. Had he abandoned her? Had Arlo's men found them? Just as she was about to call out, Beau appeared at the entrance to their hiding place, carrying a small bundle. "You're awake," he said, relief washing over her. "Thought you might sleep the whole day through." "I thought you'd left," Lena admitted, embarrassed by how much the idea had frightened her. Beau shook his head. "I wouldn't do that." He unwrapped the bundle, revealing some berries and 2 fish. Found breakfast. You left me alone to go fishing? She asked, annoyed and touched at the same time. You needed rest and we needed food. He started cleaning the fish with his knife. Don't worry. I kept an eye out. No sign of Arlo's men. They ate in silence. The fish was good, cooked over a small, nearly smokeless fire Bo had built. Lena realized it was the first real meal she'd had in 2 days. Thank you, she said when she finished, for the food and for not leaving. Bo just nodded, but she caught the slight smile that crossed his face. After they ate, Bo took out his field glasses again and scanned the area. We should move tonight. Head for that crossing I told you about. You think we can make it? Have to try, can't stay here forever. He put the glasses away and turned to her. How'd you learn to ride so well? The question caught Lena off guard. My pa taught me. We had horses on our farm. Not many, but good ones. You miss it? The farm? Every day. Lena pulled her knees up to her chest. It wasn't much, but it was ours. After Pa and Ma died, my uncle sold it to pay his debts. Said I was lucky he took me in at all. Bo's jaw tightened. Some family. What about you? You said your ma raised. You on the run? Yeah. Bo leaned back against the rock wall. My pa rode with the Dalton gang for a while. When he died, some of the gang thought he'd hidden money somewhere. Came after us thinking Ma knew where it was. Did she? No. There was never any money. Bo's eyes grew distant. We moved around. A lot. Ma worked wherever she could, cooking, cleaning, even dealt cards in saloons sometimes. Is she still alive? Bo shook his head. Died 5 years ago. That's when I came to Gravebrush. Wanted to put down roots somewhere. Prove I wasn't like my pa. Lena studied him. You're not, I can tell. Their eyes met and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Or something more. The moment was broken by the distant sound of voices. Bo was on his feet instantly, grabbing his rifle. Stay here, he whispered, moving to the entrance of their shelter. Lena's heart pounded as she waited. After what felt like forever, Bo returned. 2 riders, about half a mile off, he reported. Not Arlo's men. Looks like trappers. But they're too close for comfort. What do we do? Wait till they move on, then we leave as soon as it gets dark. The afternoon stretched endlessly. They packed their few belongings and prepared the horses, speaking little. Lena found herself watching Bo, the careful way he checked his saddle, the gentle hands that calmed his nervous horse, the alert eyes that constantly scanned their surroundings. He caught her looking once and held her gaze for a moment before turning away. Lena felt heat rise in her cheeks. When dusk finally came, they led the horses quietly from their hiding place. The canyon opened into a maze of smaller ravines, and Bo seemed to know exactly which path to take. How do you know this country so well? Lena whispered as they walked. Spent a lot of time exploring when I wasn't working. Always figured knowing the land might come in handy someday. He glanced at her. Guess I was right. Once they were clear of the rocky terrain, they mounted up and rode north. The night was cool with a bright moon lighting their way. They kept a steady pace, not pushing the horses too hard but making good time. Near midnight, they crested a ridge, and Bo pulled his horse to a stop. Below them, the river gleamed like silver in the moonlight. It was wider here than where they'd been before, but Lena could see a narrow place where the water seemed calmer. That's the crossing, she asked. Bo nodded. Used to be an old Indian trading route. The river's shallow there, only about chest deep on a horse, but the current's still strong. You've crossed here before? Once. He didn't elaborate. We'll rest the horses, then cross before dawn. They dismounted and led the horses down toward the river. Finding a sheltered spot among some trees, they made a cold camp. Bo shared the last of their jerky and some hardtack he'd bought at the trading post. After we cross, there's a small settlement about a day's ride north, he said. We can get more supplies there. Won't Arlo's men look for us there too? Maybe, but we'll be a step ahead by then. Bo took a sip from his canteen. Besides, not many people know about this crossing. They'll expect us to use the ferry. Lena nodded, though worry still gnawed at her. She'd never been hunted before. The feeling of being prey was exhausting. What happens when we reach Wyoming? She asked. Bo was quiet for a moment. I find us some land, build a cabin, start a herd. Us? The word hung in the air between them. If you want, Bo said carefully. Or I can help you get wherever you want to go. Lena looked down at her hands. I don't have anywhere else. Then, stay. The simplicity of his words made her look up. We can build something good, something that's ours. You barely know me, Lena pointed out. I know enough. Bo met her eyes. I know you're brave. I know you'd rather face the unknown than live a life that isn't yours. I know you've got fire in you. Fire isn't always a good thing. It is when the world's cold. Bo stood up. Get some rest. I'll wake you when it's time to cross. Lena wrapped herself in her blanket, but sleep wouldn't come. Bo's words echoed, in her mind, us, something that's ours. The idea was both terrifying and tempting. Could she really start over with this quiet, steady man she'd known for only 3 days? She watched him standing at the edge of their camp, a silhouette against the starry sky. There was something solid about him, something trustworthy. In a world that had shown her little kindness, Bo McCade stood out like a beacon. Before she knew it, Lena was on her feet, walking toward him. Can't sleep? Bo asked without turning around. No. She stood beside him, looking out at the river. Too much thinking? About what? The future? Lena took a deep breath. About what you said. About us. Bo turned to face her then. In the moonlight, his eyes were serious, searching hers. I meant it, he said, but I'm not asking for anything. You don't want to give. I know. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. That's what makes you different. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out and took his hand. His fingers were rough from years of hard work, but his touch was gentle as he closed them around hers. They stood like that for a long moment, not speaking, not needing to. Then Bo gently pulled her closer. Lena, he said softly, the crack of a rifle shot split the night. Bo reacted instantly, pushing Lena to the ground and covering her with his body as another shot whizzed over their heads. Stay down, he ordered, drawing his revolver. Heart pounding, Lena pressed herself against the earth as Bo fired back toward the ridge they'd crossed earlier. The horses whinnied in panic, pulling at their tethers. I count 3 of them, Bo said, reloading quickly. They must have followed our trail. Arlo's men? Lena's voice shook. Most likely. Bo fired again. We need to get to the horses. Another shot kicked up dirt near Lena's head. She flinched but didn't cry out. When I give the word, run for the horses, Bo instructed. I'll cover you. Lena nodded, gathering herself to move. Now! Bo shouted, firing rapidly at the ridge. Lena sprinted for the horses, reaching them just as another volley of shots rang out. She untied them quickly, her fingers fumbling with the knots. Bo appeared beside her, blood streaming from a cut on his cheek where a bullet had grazed him. You're hurt, she gasped. It's nothing. He mounted his horse in one fluid motion. Ride for the crossing. Don't stop. Lena swung onto her mare as more shots rang out. They spurred the horses toward the river, riding hard through the trees. Behind them, Lena could hear shouting and the sound of horses giving chase. They burst from the tree line onto the riverbank. The crossing lay just ahead, a stretch of water that looked deceptively calm in the moonlight. Stay close to me, Bo called as they urged their horses into the water. The cold hit Lena like a blow, taking her breath away. Her mare snorted in alarm but kept moving forward. The water rose quickly, soon reaching her knees, then her waist. The current tugged at them, trying to pull them downstream. Behind them, their pursuers had reached the riverbank. Gunfire erupted again, bullets splashing into the water around them. Bo's horse suddenly stumbled on the rocky riverbed, nearly throwing him. Lena reached out instinctively, grabbing his arm to help him stay mounted. Almost there, Bo encouraged as the water began to recede. Their horses found their footing on the far bank and scrambled up onto dry land. But they weren't safe yet. Lena looked back to see 2 riders plunging into the water after them. Keep going, Bo urged, and they galloped away from the river, heading for a line of trees in the distance. They rode hard for what felt like hours. Eventually, Bo signaled for them to slow down. I think we lost them, he said, breathing hard. River crossing must have slowed them down. Lena looked behind them. The night was quiet, with no sign of pursuit. "Your face," she said, noticing the dried blood on his cheek. "Just a scratch." Bo touched it gingerly. "We got lucky." The adrenaline that had carried Lena through the chase suddenly drained away, leaving her shaking. Bo noticed immediately. "Hey," he said gently, bringing his horse alongside hers. "You're all right? You did good back there." Lena nodded, trying to stop the trembling. "I've never been shot at before." "First time for everything," Bo said with a wry smile. "Though some firsts are better than others." Despite everything, Lena found herself laughing, a short, breathless sound that released some of her tension. They made camp in a dense thicket, far from any trail. Both of them were soaked from the river crossing, and the night air was cold. Bo built a small fire, shielded from view by bushes and trees. "Better get those wet clothes dried," he said, turning his back to give her privacy. Lena changed into the dress Bo had bought her at the trading post, spreading her wet clothes near the fire. Bo changed too, keeping his back to her the whole time. "Such a gentleman," Lena teased, trying to lighten the mood. "My ma raised me right," Bo replied, but there was a hint of a smile in his voice. They huddled close to the fire, exhaustion settling over them. Lena found herself leaning against Bo's shoulder, too tired to worry about propriety. "Those men," she said, her voice small. "They won't stop coming, will they?" Bo's arm came around her shoulders, solid and warm. "Not as long as Arlo wants you back. I'm sorry I got you into this." "You didn't get me into anything," Bo said firmly. "I chose this. Chose to go with you." Lena looked up at him. In the firelight, his face was all plains and shadows, the grays on his cheek a dark line against his skin. "Why?" she whispered. "Why? Would you risk your life for someone you barely knew?" Bo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Sometimes you just know." His eyes met hers. "I watched you for months in town. Never said anything, but I saw you. The way you carried yourself. The way you'd help old Mrs. Winters with her groceries even when your own arms were full. The way you'd smile at the children, but never at Arlo." Lena was stunned. "I didn't think anyone noticed me." "I did." Bo's voice was soft. "That day I saw you behind the store with your lip bleeding. I wanted to help then. I was a coward not to." "You're helping now," Lena said. "That's what matters." They fell silent, the fire crackling between them. Lena felt herself drifting off, her head still on Bo's shoulder. "Lena." His voice was so quiet, she almost didn't hear it. "Hmm? You asked what happens when we reach Wyoming." Bo's arm tightened slightly around her. "Truth is, I don't rightly know, but whatever it is, I want to face it with you." Lena felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Not the desperate heat of fear or anger that had driven her to flee Gravebrush. Gulch, but something steadier, more hopeful. "I'd like that," she murmured, just before sleep claimed her. Morning came with pale light filtering through the trees. Lena woke to find herself still nestled against Bo, his arm around her, both of them wrapped in the same blanket. For a moment she stayed perfectly still, listening to his steady breathing. It had been so long since she'd felt safe with anyone. The feeling was almost foreign, but undeniably welcome. Bo stirred, his eyes opening slowly. When he saw her watching him, a slow smile spread across his face. "Morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Morning," Lena replied, suddenly self-conscious. She sat up, straightening her dress. "We should get moving." Bo nodded, though something in his eyes told her he was reluctant to break the moment, too. "That settlement I mentioned is about 6 hours' ride from here. We can get supplies, maybe news about who's looking for us." They ate a quick breakfast of the few berries Bo had gathered the previous day, then packed up camp. Their clothes were mostly dry, though Lena's boots were still damp. The day promised to be warm, with clear skies overhead. As they rode, Lena found herself watching Bo again. There was an ease to the way he sat in the saddle, a quiet confidence that came from years on horseback. When he caught her looking, he didn't turn away this time. Instead, he smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes and made something flutter in Lena's stomach. The land changed as they traveled north. The rocky terrain gave way to rolling hills covered with tall grass. Wildflowers dotted the landscape, adding splashes of color. "It's beautiful," Lena said as they crested a hill. "Gets even better in Wyoming," Bo told her. "Green meadows, clear streams, good land for raising cattle, and horses too if you wanted." "I'd like that," Lena said, surprising herself with how easily she could picture it. A small ranch, horses grazing in the meadow, a garden of her own. And Bo. Always Bo in these new dreams of hers. Around midday, they stopped to rest the horses beside a small stream. As Lena knelt to fill their canteens, Bo stood watch, scanning the horizon with his field glasses. "See anything?" she asked. "No, but that doesn't mean they're not still looking." He lowered the glasses. "Arlo Sykes isn't a man who gives up easily." "No, he isn't." Lena frowned, memories of Arlo's persistent attention making her skin crawl. "He thinks he owns everything he wants." "Not you," Bo said firmly. "Never you." Their eyes met, and Lena felt that same connection she'd experienced the night before, the sense that Bo understood her in a way no one else ever had. They rode on, talking more freely now. Bo told her stories about his years on the run with his mother, about the kind stranger who had helped them escape, about his dreams of building a ranch of his own. Lena shared memories of her parents, of the farm she'd loved, of the small joys she'd found even in her hard life with her uncle. By late afternoon, they saw smoke rising in the distance, the settlement Bo had mentioned. As they drew closer, Lena could make out a cluster of buildings, a general store, a small church, a few houses, and what looked like a livery stable. "Clayton's Crossing," Bo said. "Small place, but the people are decent." Lena felt anxiety rise in her chest. After days on the run, the idea of facing strangers was daunting. "What if someone recognizes us?" she asked. "Not likely, it's off the main trails." Bo glanced at her. "But just in case, we'll say we're married, heading north to start a new life." "Married?" Lena repeated, heat rising in her cheeks. "Just for a show?" Bo assured her, though something in his eyes suggested he wasn't entirely opposed to the idea being real. "People ask fewer questions about a husband and wife traveling together." Lena nodded, trying to ignore the strange leap her heart gave at the word husband associated with Bo. As they rode into the small settlement, a few people looked up from their work. An old man rocking on the porch of the general store raised a hand in greeting. Bo returned the gesture with a nod. "Remember," he said quietly to Lena, "we're just passing through, getting supplies and moving on." "I remember," she replied. Then, taking a deep breath, she added, "Mr. McCade." Bo looked at her in surprise, then smiled, a warm, genuine smile that made her heart skip. "Mrs. McCade," he replied just loud enough for her to hear. And for a moment, despite the danger still following them, despite the uncertainty ahead, Lena allowed herself to imagine that it wasn't just for show, that the future Bo had talked about a home, a life built together, could really be hers. Their horses' hooves echoed on the hard-packed dirt of the settlement's single street as they rode toward the general store. The next chapter of their journey was about to begin. Clayton's Crossing was smaller than Gravebrush Gulch, but to Lena it felt somehow warmer. People nodded as they passed, their faces curious, but not suspicious. Bo helped her down from her horse, in front of the general store, his hands lingering at her waist for just a moment. "Best if I do the talking," he said quietly. Lena nodded, suddenly aware of how she must look, her hair wind-blown, her dress wrinkled from days on the trail. She smoothed it as best she could before following Bo into the store. A bell jingled as they entered. The store was small but well-stocked, with goods lining wooden shelves from floor to ceiling. A round-faced man with a grey beard looked up from behind the counter. "Afternoon, folks," he greeted them. "Passing through?" "Yes, sir," Bo replied. "Me and my wife are heading north, looking to stock up before we go." The word wife sent a strange flutter through Lena's stomach. She forced a smile, trying to look like a woman on an adventure with her husband rather than a fugitive on the run. "North, eh?" The shopkeeper studied them. "Wyoming." "That's right," Bo said, starting to gather supplies. "Heard there's good land for homesteading." "Indeed there is." The man's eyes fell on the graze on Beau's cheek. "Looks like you had some trouble." "On the trail." Beau's hand went to his face. "Just a branch. Wasn't looking where I was riding." The shopkeeper nodded, though his eyes held a hint of doubt. "Well, you folks be careful. Trails got all sorts of dangers these days." While Beau selected supplies, Lena wandered through the store. It had been months since she'd been able to simply browse without her uncle or Arlo hovering nearby. She ran her fingers over a bolt of pretty blue fabric, imagining what it would be. Like to make curtains for a home of her own. "See something you like?" Lena turned to find Beau watching her, a gentle smile on his face. "Just looking," she said quickly. Beau reached past her and picked up the fabric. "How much for this?" he called. "To the shopkeeper." "Beau, no," Lena whispered. "We can't afford—" $2 for the whole bolt," the shopkeeper called back. "We'll take it," Beau decided, adding it to their supplies. "What are you doing?" Lena asked when the shopkeeper moved to the back of the store. "Buying my wife a gift?" Beau said softly, his eyes holding hers. "For our new home." The simple words and the look in his eyes made Lena's heart skip a beat. She found herself wondering if this was still part of their act or something more. They finished their shopping, adding food, ammunition, and a few other necessities to their supplies. As the shopkeeper wrapped everything up, the bell over the Wowzer jingled again. A tall, thin man with a silver star on his vest stepped inside. "Afternoon, Sheriff Davis," the shopkeeper greeted him. Lena felt Beau tense beside her. His hand moved subtly closer to his gun. "Tom," the sheriff nodded to the shopkeeper, then turned his attention to Beau and Lena. "Don't believe I've had the pleasure." "Sheriff Jim Davis." "Beau McCade," Beau replied, his voice steady despite the tension Lena could feel radiating from him. "This is my wife Lena. We're just passing through." The sheriff studied them with sharp eyes. "Where you folks headed?" "North, Wyoming territory." "Long journey." Sheriff Davis leaned against the counter. "Where you coming from?" "South," Beau said, vaguely. "Looking for a fresh start." The sheriff nodded slowly. "Funny thing, got a telegram this morning about some folks matching your description, horse thief and the man who helped her escape." Lena's blood ran cold. Beau moved slightly, positioning himself between her and the sheriff. "That's so." Beau's voice remained calm, but Lena could see his hand inching toward his gun. "Yep." The sheriff studied them. "Said the woman was promised to a man named Sykes. Said she stole one of his horses and ran off with a cowhand." The store fell silent. Lena held her breath, waiting for the sheriff to draw his gun, to arrest them both. Instead, he spat on the floor. "Always thought Arlo Sykes was a snake. Man's got a reputation all the way up here." Beau blinked in surprise. "You know him?" "Know of him. Wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him." Sheriff Davis straightened up. "Don't know your story and don't much care to. But if you're running from Arlo Sykes, you got your reasons." Relief washed over Lena. She stepped forward. "The horse was my uncle's, not Arlo's, and I wasn't stealing it. I was taking back what was mine." The sheriff looked at her appraisingly. "Figured it was something like that." He turned to the shopkeeper. "Tom, give these folks what they need. Put it on my account if they're short." "That's mighty kind," Beau said, clearly surprised. "But we can pay our way. Suit yourself." Sheriff Davis headed for the door, then paused. "Word of advice? Sykes has men looking for you all through this territory. You might want to lay low for a few days before moving on." "We appreciate the warning," Beau said. After the sheriff left, the shopkeeper gave them a sympathetic look. "Got a small room above the store, not much, but it's clean. You folks are welcome to it for a few days." Beau looked at Lena, letting her decide. She nodded gratefully. "Thank you," she told the shopkeeper. "We'd be obliged." The room above the store was simple. Just a bed, a table with 2 chairs and a washstand. But after days on the trail, it felt like luxury to Lena. There was even a small window overlooking the main street, where she could watch the comings and goings of the settlement. Beau brought up their supplies, and the horses were settled in the livery stable. When he returned to the room, he found Lena standing by the window, holding the bolt of blue fabric he'd bought her. "You didn't have to get this," she said softly. "Wanted to." Beau set his saddlebags down, thought it might be nice for curtains. "When we get our place," Lena turned to face him. "Our place?" Beau's eyes held hers. "If that's still what you want." "Is it what you want?" she asked, needing to hear him say it. "Yes." The simple word carried a weight of emotion. "Been thinking about it since we left Gravebrush, a home, land of our own, cattle, horses." He paused. "You?" Lena's heart raced. "Me?" Beau took a step closer. "I know it's fast. No, we haven't known each other long, but I feel it too," Lena whispered. The distance between them vanished as Beau drew her into his arms. His kiss was gentle at first, then deeper as Lena responded. All the tension and fear of the past days melted away, replaced by a warmth that spread through her entire body. When they finally pulled apart, Beau rested his forehead against hers. "Been wanting to do that since I found you in that stable," Lena smiled. "What took you so long?" Beau chuckled, the sound rumbling in his chest. "Figured running for our lives wasn't the best time to court a lady proper." "I think we're well past proper, Mr. McCade." Lena felt a boldness she'd never known before. With Beau, she wasn't property to be traded or a prize to be won. She was a woman making her own choices. Beau kissed her again, and Lena knew with absolute certainty that running away was the best decision she'd ever made. They spent the next 2 days in Clayton's Crossing, resting and planning their journey north. The settlement was small enough that news traveled fast, and soon everyone knew they were running from Arlo Sykes. Far from turning them in, the locals seemed determined to help. The blacksmith reshod their horses for free. The pastor's wife gave Lena a warm shawl for the colder climate up north. Even the sheriff stopped by with a detailed map showing the safest route to Wyoming. "Folks around here don't have much love for men like Sykes," he explained. "Throws his money around, thinks he owns people. We take care of our own." Lena was touched by their kindness. For the first time since her parents died, she felt part of a community, even if just for a short while. In the evenings, she and Beau would sit in their small room above the store, talking late into the night. Beau told her more about his plans for their ranch, a modest house to start with room to expand as they could afford it, a stable for horses, good grazing land for cattle. "We'll build it together," he promised. "Make it exactly what we want." Lena found herself sharing her own dreams, a garden with vegetables and flowers, maybe a few chickens, windows that let in plenty of light. Simple things, but they meant everything to her. On their third morning in Clayton's Crossing, Lena woke to find Beau already dressed and looking out the window, a frown on his face. "What is it?" she asked, sitting up. "Riders coming in." Beau's voice was tense. 4 of them. Lena joined him at the window. 4 men on horseback were entering the settlement, their dusty clothes and hard faces marking them as men used to rough living. She recognized one immediately, Cord, Arlo's right-hand man. "They found us," she whispered, fear gripping her heart. Beau nodded grimly. "Get dressed, quick." As Lena hurriedly pulled on her clothes, Beau checked his gun and stuffed their few belongings into saddlebags. "We'll go out the back way," he said. "Get to the livery before they spot us." They crept down the back stairs of the store just as the shopkeeper was opening up for the day. "Riders looking for you just rode in," he warned them. "Sheriff's stalling." "Them, but you best hurry." "Much obliged for everything," Beau said, pressing extra money into the man's hand. "Godspeed," the shopkeeper replied. "Follow the creek north. It'll lead you to the old logging road, safer than the main trail." They slipped out the back door and hurried toward the livery stable, keeping to alleys and behind buildings. From the main street, they could hear voices, Cord's demanding tone, the sheriff's measured responses. The livery stable was empty except for their horses, already saddled and waiting. A note pinned to Beau's saddle read simply, "Good luck, Sheriff Davis." "Looks like we've got friends," Beau said, quickly checking the cinches. They led the horses out the back of the stable. Just as they were mounting up, a shout rang out. "There they are." Cord and another of Arlo's men had spotted them from the end of the alley. Both drew their guns. "Ride," Beau yelled, firing a shot to force them to take cover. Lena spurred her mare, galloping out of town with Beau right beside her. Bullets whizzed past them as they rode, but soon they were beyond range, heading north along the creek as the shopkeeper had advised. They rode hard for hours, pushing the horses as much as they dared. The creek led them to a narrow, overgrown road winding through dense forest, the old logging road. Here they slowed, the thick trees providing cover. "Think we lost them?" Lena asked, breathing hard. Bo scanned the trail behind them. "For now, but they'll follow. Cord's a good tracker." They continued north, the forest gradually giving way to rolling hills. By late afternoon, dark clouds had gathered overhead, and a cold wind picked up. The first drops of rain began to fall as Bo spotted an abandoned trapper's cabin tucked against a hillside. "We'll shelter there," he decided. "Wait out the storm." The cabin was small and dilapidated, but the roof was mostly intact. Bo led the horses to a lean-to at the side while Lena checked inside. There was a crude stone fireplace, a rough wooden table, and what had once been a bed frame, now just a platform with some rotting straw. "It's not much," she said when Bo came in, "but it's dry." Bo nodded, dropping their saddlebags. "Better than being out in that." He gestured to the window where rain was now coming down in sheets. He managed to get a small fire going in the fireplace using dry wood stacked nearby. The warmth was welcome as the temperature dropped with the storm. Lena spread their blankets on the old bed frame, brushing away the worst of the straw. "Storm might work in our favor," Bo said, looking out the window. "Rain will wash away our tracks." Lena moved to stand beside him. "How much farther to Wyoming?" 2, maybe 3 days' ride, depending on the weather. Bo put his arm around her shoulders. "We're getting close, Lena. Close to making a new start." She leaned into him, drawing strength from his solid presence. "Do you really think we can outrun them, outrun Arlo?" Bo was quiet for a moment. "Maybe not forever, but we can get far enough that coming after us isn't worth his trouble anymore." "You don't know Arlo," Lena said softly. "It's not about the horse or even about me, not really. It's about winning, about owning. He can't stand losing something he thinks belongs to him." Bo turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "You don't belong to him, you never did. And I won't let him take you." "I'm not afraid for myself anymore," Lena admitted. "I'm afraid for you, for what he might do to you." Bo's eyes softened. "Worth the risk." The simple words, spoken with such quiet conviction, made Lena's heart swell. She reached up to touch his face, tracing the line of his jaw. "I never thought I'd find someone like you," she whispered. "Nor I you." Bo pulled her closer. "When this is all over, when we're safe in Wyoming, I want to marry you proper if you'll have me." Lena felt tears spring to her eyes. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, I'll have you." Their kiss was tender at first, then grew more urgent. Outside the storm raged, but inside the small cabin, Lena and Bo found shelter in each other's arms. Whatever dangers lay ahead, whatever challenges they might face, they would face them together. The storm continued through the night and into the next day. They stayed in the cabin, rationing their supplies and taking turns keeping watch. The forced rest was good for the horses, and for them too. After days of hard riding and constant vigilance, they both needed time to recover. As evening approached on the second day, the rain finally began to let up. Bo stood in the doorway, watching the clouds break apart to reveal patches of blue sky. "We'll leave at first light," he decided. "Make for the border." Lena nodded, joining him in the doorway. The air smelled fresh and clean after the rain, and a rainbow arched across the eastern sky. "It's a good sign," she said, pointing to it. Bo smiled down at her. "I'd say we're due for some good luck." They spent the evening making plans for their future. Bo drew a rough sketch of the house they would build, simple but sturdy, with a broad porch facing the mountains. Lena added her touches, where the garden would go, a small room that could one day be a nursery. "You want children?" Bo asked, watching her face. "Someday," Lena replied. "When we're settled, when it's safe." She looked up at him. "Do you?" Bo nodded, his eyes warm. "A whole passel of them. Little girls with your eyes, boys with your spirit, and your good heart," Lena added, leaning against him. They fell asleep in each other's arms, dreaming of the future they would build together. The sound of horses approaching woke them before dawn. Bo was on his feet instantly, gun in hand. "Stay low," he whispered to Lena, moving to the window. Through the gray pre-dawn light, he could make out riders approaching the cabin, at least 3 of them, moving cautiously. "It's them," he said grimly. Must have waited out the storm then. Picked up our trail. Lena's face was pale but determined as she grabbed her own small pistol, a gift from the sheriff in Clayton's Crossing. What do we do? Bo thought quickly. They don't know for sure we're in here, might just be checking. He peered out again. There's a back way through the trees. If we can get to the horses without being seen, a voice called out from outside. We know you're in there, McCade. Come on out and bring the girl. It was Cord's voice. Bo and Lena exchanged a look. Go out the back, Bo said. Get to the horses. I'll hold them off. I'm not leaving you, Lena said fiercely. Not asking you to, just giving us a head start. Bo checked his ammunition. On my signal, run for the back door. Don't stop, don't look back. Get the horses ready. I'll be right behind you. Lena wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. She nodded, moving to the back door, ready to run. Hey, Cord, Bo called out. Why don't you tell Arlo to come do his own dirty work? Arlo Sykes doesn't chase after stolen property himself, Cord shouted back. That's what he pays us for. The lady isn't property, Bo replied, his voice hard. And she wasn't stolen, she chose to leave. There was a pause, then Cord's voice again. Have it your way. We're coming in. Now, Bo whispered to Lena, firing a shot through the front window. Lena burst through the back door, running for the lean-to where the horses were tethered. Behind her, she heard more gunshots as Bo exchanged fire with Arlo's men. Her hands shook. As she untied the horses, she had just finished when Bo appeared running toward her. Mount up, he shouted. Quick! They swung into their saddles just as Cord and another man rounded the corner of the cabin, guns drawn. Bo fired twice, forcing them back. Then he and Lena spurred their horses into the trees. Bullets splintered bark around them as they rode. Lena kept her head low, her heart pounding in her ears. Behind them came the sound of pursuing horses. The forest was dense, slowing their progress. Branches whipped at their faces as they weaved between trees. The ground was still slick from the rain, making the footing treacherous. Suddenly, Bo's horse stumbled, going down on one knee. Bo managed to stay mounted, but the delay cost them precious seconds. When the horse regained its footing, Cord and his men had closed the gap. They're gaining, Lena cried. Bo glanced back, his face grim. We need to split up. You go left at that big oak ahead. Follow the stream. It leads to the border. I'll draw them off. No, Lena protested. We stay together. Lena, listen to me. Bo's eyes locked with hers. I'll find you. I promise. But right. Now we need to give them a choice. Make them split up too. Tears stung Lena's eyes, but she nodded. She knew he was right. The border, she confirmed. Where the stream crosses. I'll be there by nightfall, Bo promised. If I'm not, you will be. Lena cut him off. She couldn't bear to think of any other possibility. The oak tree loomed ahead. With one last look at Bo, Lena veered left, urging her mare along the stream bank. Bo continued straight, firing his gun in the air to make sure their pursuers saw him. Through the trees, Lena caught glimpses of the chase. Bo riding hard, Cord and one man following him while the third hesitated, then turned toward her trail. Fear gave her strength as she pushed her mare faster. The stream widened, its banks growing steeper. Ahead, Lena could see open country, rolling hills that promised both exposure and speed. Behind her, hoofbeats grew louder. Arlo's man was gaining, the E. Stream took a sharp bend. Lena guided her horse around it, then made a split-second decision. Instead of continuing along the water, she urged her mare up the steep bank and into a thicket of pines. The gamble paid off. From her hidden position, she watched as her pursuer continued along the stream, unaware that she had left the trail. Lena waited until he was out of sight, then turned her horse north toward the border, toward Wyoming, toward freedom. But as she rode, one thought consumed her. Bo. Would he escape? Would he find her as promised? The idea of reaching safety without him was unbearable. Please, she whispered, though to whom she wasn't sure. Please let him be all right. The sun climbed higher as Lena rode north. The land began to change, more rugged with rocky outcroppings and deeper valleys. Her mare was tiring, forcing her to slow to a walk at times. Every shadow, every sound made her jump, expecting Arlo's men to appear. By late afternoon, Lena reached a high ridge. From there she could see for miles, the land stretching out before her, wild and beautiful. And somewhere in the distance, a line that meant more than just a border between territories. It meant a new beginning, but not without Bo. The sun was setting when Lena reached the spot where the stream crossed into Wyoming territory. A simple wooden marker was the only sign that she had left one life behind and was about to start another. She dismounted, letting her tired mare drink from the stream. Then she sat on a boulder, watching the trail behind her, waiting. The last light faded from the sky. Stars appeared, bright and cold. Still, Lena waited. A twig snapped in the darkness. Lena stood, hand going to her pistol. "Lena?" Bo's voice, rough with exhaustion, came from the shadows. "Bo." She ran toward the sound, nearly colliding with him as he emerged from the trees. His arms went around her, holding her tight. Lena could feel his heart hammering against her cheek. "You made it," she whispered, tears of relief spilling down her face. "Told you I would." Bo's voice was strained. He swayed slightly in her arms. It was only then that Lena felt the wetness on his side. Pulling back, she saw the dark stain spreading across his shirt. "You're hurt?" she gasped. Bo managed a weak smile. "It's nothing, just a graze." But as Lena helped him to the boulder where she'd been waiting, she could see it was more than a graze. Blood soaked his shirt and the side of his pants. "What happened?" she asked, frantically trying to see the wound in the dim light. "Cord's a better shot than I gave him credit for," Bo said, wincing as he sat. "Got me as I was crossing a clearing. But I lost him, doubled back through a canyon." Lena tore a strip from her petticoat and pressed it against the wound. Bo hissed in pain but didn't pull away. "We need to get you to a doctor," she said, fear making her voice shake. "We're in Wyoming now," Bo reminded her, reaching for her hand. "We made it, Lena. We're free." "We're not free if you bleed to death," she retorted, fighting back tears. Bo squeezed her hand. "I'm not dying, not now that I've found you." His eyes, bright with pain and something else, held hers. "Not when we have a future to build." Lena helped him back onto his horse, then mounted her own. Supporting Bo as best she could, she led them north toward the distant lights of what she hoped was a town. Behind them, the border stood as a silent witness to their crossing. Before them lay Wyoming, and whatever fate awaited them there. The small town of Pine Ridge sat nestled in a valley just north of the Wyoming border. Its main street was quiet as Lena rode in, supporting a half-conscious Bo on his horse. A few people stepped out onto their porches, watching the strangers with curious eyes. "Help!" Lena called, her voice breaking. "Please, I need a doctor." Older man hurried forward from the general store. "What happened?" "He's been shot," Lena explained, fighting back tears. "Please, is there a doctor?" "Doc Miller's place is just down the street," the man said, taking the reins of Bo's horse. "I'll help you get him there." Together, they managed to get Bo to a small white house with a sign reading Dr. Joseph Miller, physician. The doctor, a kind-faced man with silver hair and spectacles, took one look at Bo and immediately ushered them inside. "Gunshot wound?" he asked as they laid Bo on an examining table. Lena nodded. "We were attacked by outlaws," she lied, not wanting to reveal too much. Doc Miller didn't question her further. He cut away Bo's bloodied shirt, revealing an ugly wound in his side. "Bullet's still in there," he said grimly. "Need to get it out before infection sets in." He looked at Lena. "This is going to be painful for him. You might want to wait outside." "No." Lena took Bo's hand firmly in hers. "I'm staying right here." The doctor nodded, respecting her decision. He gave Bo whiskey to drink, then a leather strap to bite down on. Lena held Bo's hand tightly as the doctor worked to extract the bullet, tears streaming down her face at each muffled groan of pain from Bo. "You're going to be all right," she whispered to him. "You have to be." Bo's eyes, clouded with pain, found hers. "Not leaving you," he managed to say before the doctor's probing made him bite down hard on the leather. After what felt like hours, Doc Miller held up a bloody piece of metal. "Got it," he announced. "Clean through the muscle, missed anything vital. He's a lucky man." Lena felt weak with relief. "He'll recover." "With rest and care, yes." The doctor cleaned the wound and began stitching it closed. No riding for at least a week, preferably 2, and he'll need to take it easy for a month after that. Bo, still conscious despite the pain, shook his head. Can't stay that long, not safe. The doctor raised an eyebrow but didn't press for details. Well, you won't be going anywhere for at least a few days unless you want to tear those stitches and bleed to death. Once Bo was bandaged and resting on a cot in the doctor's spare room, Doc Miller took Lena aside. "You two in some kind of trouble?" he asked kindly. Lena hesitated, then decided honesty was their best chance for help. "There's a man after us, a powerful man from down south. He thinks I belong to him." Understanding dawned in the doctor's eyes. "I see, and you don't." "No," Lena said firmly. "I belong to myself, and—" She glanced toward the room where Bo lay. "Maybe to him, if he'll have me." Doc Miller smiled. "Seems to me he already does." He patted her shoulder. "Don't worry, folks in Pine Ridge mind their own business. You're safe here for now." For 3 days, Lena barely left Bo's side. She slept in a chair next to his cot, waking at his slightest movement. The doctor's wife, Martha, brought them meals and fresh clothes, clucking sympathetically over their situation. "Such a shame. Young folks like you having to run," she said, setting down a bowl of stew. "But you found each other, that's what matters." On the 4th day, Bo was strong enough to sit up. Color had returned to his face, and his eyes were clear again. Lena helped him eat a bowl of Martha's beef stew, relief washing over her at his improving condition. "You had me worried," she admitted, sitting on the edge of his cot. Bo took her hand. "Takes more than a bullet to keep me from our plans." "Our plans can wait until you're well," Lena insisted. Bo shook his head. "Arlo won't wait. If Cord and his men crossed the border, they wouldn't dare," Lena said, though she wasn't entirely convinced. "This is Wyoming now. They have no authority here. Men like that don't care about authority." Bo's face was grim. "We need to keep moving as soon as I can ride." Doc Miller, overhearing as he entered the room, frowned. "That won't be for another few days at least, young man." "We appreciate all you've done," Bo said sincerely, "but staying in one place too long is dangerous, for us and for you." The doctor sighed. "At least give it 2 more days. Let those stitches set a bit more." Bo reluctantly agreed. Lena could see the worry in his eyes, though. Every day they stayed was another day Arlo's men might find them. That evening, as Bo slept, Lena sat on the porch with Doc Miller. The night air was cool, stars twinkling overhead in a clear sky. "He's a good man," the doctor commented, nodding toward the house where Bo rested. "The best I've ever known," Lena agreed. "And this Arlo fellow," Lena shuddered. "The worst. He sees people as things to be owned, women especially." Doc Miller was quiet for a moment. "My brother's got a ranch about 100 miles north of here. Good land, but he's getting on in years. Been looking for someone to help run the place." He glanced at Lena. "Someone like your Bo, maybe?" Hope fluttered in Lena's chest. "You think he'd hire us? Even with our situation?" "Sam doesn't ask questions about a person's past, only cares about their character." The doctor smiled. "I'll write him a letter. You can take it with you when you go." Tears sprang to Lena's eyes. "Why are you helping? Us? You don't even know us." "I know enough," Doc Miller said simply. "Besides, we all need a helping hand sometimes." 2 days later, Bo was on his feet, moving slowly but steadily. Doc Miller pronounced him fit to travel, though he warned against any hard riding. "Take it slow," he advised, handing Bo a package of clean bandages and medicine. "Change the dressing daily. Any sign of infection, find a doctor immediately." Lena packed the supplies Martha had given them: food, a new shirt for Bo, and the bolt of blue fabric Bo had bought her, which she'd carried all this way. The doctor gave them the promised letter to his brother, along with directions to his ranch. "It's called Sweetwater," he explained. "Good name for a good place." Their horses were brought from the livery stable, rested and ready. Bo insisted on mounting by himself, though Lena could see the effort cost him. "Stubborn man," she muttered, but there was fondness in her voice. They said their goodbyes to the doctor and his wife, promising to send word once they were settled. As they rode slowly out of town, Lena felt a mixture of hope and apprehension. They had a destination now, a chance at the future they'd dreamed of. But the shadow of Arlo Sykes still loomed behind them. They traveled north at an easy pace, stopping frequently to let Bo rest. The Wyoming landscape unfolded before them, rolling hills giving way to broader valleys, stands of pine trees providing welcome shade. It was beautiful country, rich and green after the recent rains. On their second day of travel, they made camp early by a small lake. Bo sat with his back against a tree, watching as Lena prepared a simple dinner. "You're getting good at that," he observed as she built a fire. Lena smiled. "Had a good teacher." She glanced at him. "How's your side feeling?" "Better," Bo said, though she noticed he still moved carefully. "Be right as rain in no time." After they ate, they sat side by side, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Bo's arm was around her shoulders and Lena leaned into his warmth. "It feels different here," she said softly. "Safer." "It is safer," Bo assured her. "We're a long way from Gravebrush Gulch now." Lena looked up at him. "Do you think he'll ever stop looking for us?" Bo was quiet for a moment. "Hard to say. Men like Arlo don't like to lose, but even he can't search forever." "I hope you're right." Lena rested her head on his shoulder. "I just want to start our life together without always looking over our shoulders." "We will." Bo kissed the top of her head. "I promise." They made camp for the night, sleeping under the stars. For the first time since they'd fled Gravebrush Gulch, Lena slept deeply, without fear or nightmares. Morning dawned clear and bright. They were packing up camp when Bo suddenly froze, his head tilted as if listening. "What is it?" Lena asked, instantly alert. "Horses," Bo said quietly, reaching for his gun. "Coming this way." Lena's heart raced. "Arlo's men?" "Can't tell." Bo moved toward the trees, keeping low. "Get the horses into those trees. Stay hidden." She did as he said, leading their mounts into a dense stand of pines. From there, she could see the trail they'd been following. Bo positioned himself behind a large boulder, gun drawn. The riders appeared a few minutes later, 4 men moving at a steady pace. Lena's blood ran cold as she recognized Cord at the head of the group. Next to him, to her horror, rode Arlo Sykes himself. Arlo looked much as she remembered, expensively dressed despite the trail dust, his silver-streaked dark hair slicked back, his face set in lines of arrogant determination. Seeing him again made Lena's stomach clench with fear and revulsion. The riders stopped not 50 yards from their camp. Arlo surveyed the area, his eyes narrowed. "They were here," Cord said, pointing to the remains of their campfire. "Not long. Réussi, find them," Arlo ordered, his voice carrying clearly in the morning air. "I want that girl back, and I want that saddle tramp dead." The men spread out, beginning to search the area. One headed directly toward the trees where Lena hid with the horses. She pressed herself against a tree trunk, hardly daring to breathe. Shot rang out, and the man approaching the trees fell with a cry. Bo had fired from his position behind the boulder. "McCade!" Cord shouted, drawing his gun. "Should have known you weren't dead yet." Bo fired again, forcing Cord and the other man to take cover. Arlo remained on his horse, watching the scene unfold with cold calculation. "Come out, McCade," he called. "You're outnumbered and outgunned. Give me back what's mine and maybe I'll let you live." "Lena doesn't belong to you or anyone else," Bo shouted back. "She's not property to be traded or stolen." Arlo laughed, a sound without humor. "Everything has its price. I paid for her fair and square, settling her uncle's debt. In the eyes of the law, she's mine." "Not in Wyoming, she isn't," Bo replied. "You have no claim here." "I have a claim wherever I say I do," Arlo said coldly. "Cord, smoke him out." Cord and the remaining man began firing at Bo's position, forcing him to keep his head down. Lena watched in horror as they slowly worked their way closer to the boulder. Bo was pinned down and outnumbered. If she didn't do something, he would die trying to protect her. Making a split-second decision, Lena grabbed her small pistol and crept through the trees until she was behind Arlo. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the open, gun raised. "Stop!" she commanded. "Stop or I'll shoot!" Everyone froze. Arlo turned his horse slowly, his face registering shock at the sight of Lena pointing a gun at him. "Well, well," he said, recovering quickly. "There's my runaway bride." "I was never Your bride, Lena said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. And I never will be. Arlo's eyes hardened. Put the gun down, girl. You don't have the stomach to use it. Don't I? Lena kept the pistol aimed at his chest. You'd be surprised what I'm capable of when it comes to protecting someone I love. Love? Arlo spat the word. You think that saddle tramp loves you? He just wanted what was mine. You're wrong, Lena said firmly. Bo loves me for who I am, not what he thinks I'm worth. From his position behind the boulder, Bo called out, Lena, get back! Listen to him, girl, Arlo urged, a false note of concern in his voice, before someone gets hurt. The only one getting hurt will be you if you don't leave us alone, Lena warned. This ends now, Arlo. Go back to Gravebrush Gulch. Find someone else to bully and control. Arlo's face darkened with anger. No one tells me what to do, especially not a woman. He nodded slightly to someone behind her. Too late, Lena realized her mistake. Cord had circled around while she was focused on Arlo. She felt cold metal against the back of her head. Drop it, Cord ordered. Lena had no choice. She let the pistol fall from her fingers. That's better, Arlo said, dismounting. He walked toward her, a predatory smile on his face. Now let's collect your cowboy and head home. This is our home, Lena said defiantly. Wyoming, not Gravebrush Gulch, not anywhere you are. Arlo reached out to grab her arm, but before he could touch her, another shot rang out. Cord cried out in pain, dropping his gun and clutching his shoulder. Bo emerged from behind the boulder, his gun trained on Arlo. Step away from her, he commanded. Arlo froze, his eyes darting between Bo and Cord, who was now on his knees. You're still outnumbered, Arlo pointed out. My other man is taking a nap, came a new voice. An older man with a sheriff's badge stepped into the clearing, rifle in hand. Behind him were 3 more men, all armed. Found him trying to circle around, didn't much care for his intentions. Relief washed over Lena. Help had arrived, though from where she couldn't guess. Who the hell are you? Arlo demanded. Sheriff Tom Wilson, Pine Ridge County, the man replied. And you're trespassing on my territory, threatening my people. Your people? Arlo scoffed. These 2 are fugitives. The girl stole my property, and the man aided her. Sheriff Wilson looked unimpressed. Only property I see here is horses and guns, and the lady doesn't look stolen to me. He glanced at Lena. Are you being held against your will, ma'am? No, Sheriff, Lena said firmly. I'm exactly where I want to be. There you have it, the sheriff said to Arlo. Now, I suggest you take your wounded man and head back south. Wyoming's not a friendly place for men who chase women across borders. Arlo's face contorted with rage. Do you know who I am? I own half of... Don't care if you own the moon, Sheriff Wilson cut him off. Here, you're just a man causing trouble, and trouble is something I don't abide in my county. For a tense moment, Arlo looked like he might argue further. Then, seeing the steady rifles aimed at him, he seemed to recalculate. This isn't over, he warned, looking at Lena. You'll regret crossing me. Only thing I regret, Lena replied, is not leaving sooner. With a final glare, Arlo helped Cord to his feet. Under the watchful eyes of the sheriff and his men, they collected their wounded companion and mounted up. I'm giving you till sundown to cross back over the border, Sheriff Wilson told them. After that, I'll have my men shoot on sight. Arlo's jaw clenched, but he said nothing more. With a curt nod to his remaining man, he turned his horse and rode south, Cord and the others following. Once they were out of sight, Bo hurried to Lena's side, drawing her into his arms. That was the bravest and most foolish thing I've ever seen, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Learn from the best, Lena replied, clinging to him. Sheriff Wilson approached them, a friendly smile breaking through his stern exterior. Doc Miller sent word about you 2. Asked me to keep an eye out as you headed north. He tipped his hat to Lena. Glad we got here when we did. So are we, Bo said gratefully, his arm still around Lena. Think they'll be back? The sheriff shook his head. Men like that are bullies. Push back hard enough, they find easier targets. He looked thoughtful. Still, might be good for you folks to keep heading north. Sweetwater Ranch is a fine place. Well out of the way. That's where we're headed, Lena confirmed. Good. Sheriff Wilson nodded. I'll have my men escort you part of the way, just to be safe. With the danger past, they finished breaking camp. Bo moved stiffly, his wound clearly paining him after the confrontation, but his eyes were bright with relief and something more, hope. As they prepared to ride out, he pulled Lena aside. "Back there, when you were facing down Arlo, you said something about protecting someone you love." Lena felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I did." "Did you mean it?" Bo's eyes searched hers. "Every word," Lena said softly. "I love you, Bo McCade. Have since you found me in that stable and said I should have taken you too." Bo's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. "I've loved you just as long," he admitted. "Maybe even before watching you from afar in town." He leaned down and kissed her, a kiss full of promise and future and home. The journey to Sweetwater Ranch took 3 more days. True to his word, Sheriff Wilson provided an escort for the first day, ensuring no further trouble from Arlo or his men. As they crested a hill on the afternoon of the 3rd day, a sprawling ranch came into view in the valley below. A 2-story house with a wide porch stood surrounded by corrals and barns. Cattle grazed in the distance, and a stream, presumably the Sweetwater that gave the ranch its name, wound through the property. "It's beautiful," Lena breathed. Boom nodded, taking in the sight. Could be a good place to start over. They rode down to the ranch where they were greeted by Samuel Miller, Doc Miller's brother. He was older than the doctor, with the same kind eyes and a weathered face that spoke of years under the Wyoming sun. "Been expecting you," he said after introducing himself. "Got Joseph's letter yesterday." He looked Bo up and down. "Heard you're good with horses and cattle." "Yes, sir," Bo confirmed. "And handy with tools, place always needs fixing." "I can build or fix most anything," Bo said confidently. Samuel nodded, apparently satisfied. "And you, young lady. Joseph says you're a hard worker too." "I am," Lena assured him. "Can cook, clean, garden, whatever's needed." "Good, good." Samuel gestured to the house. "Martha, that's my wife. She could use the help. Getting on in years, same as me." He scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Got a cabin on the property. Nothing fancy, but it's sound. Could be yours if you want the job." Bo and Lena exchanged a look. "We'd be obliged," Bo said, extending his hand. Samuel shook it firmly. "One condition, though." "Sir?" Bo asked cautiously. "Joseph mentioned you two are planning to marry." "Martha won't have any unmarried couples living on Sweetwater. Says it ain't proper." Lena felt a blush rise in her cheeks. Bo cleared his throat. "Actually, sir, that was our intention all along. Just been a bit busy staying alive to see to it." Samuel chuckled. "Well, we can fix that. Pastor comes through once a month, due next Sunday as it happens." And so it was that 1 week later, Lena Holt became Lena McCade in a simple ceremony on the porch of Sweetwater Ranch. Martha Miller had helped her make a dress from the blue fabric Bo had bought her back in Clayton's Crossing. Bo wore a clean shirt and his best pants, his hair slicked back with water. As they spoke their vows before the traveling pastor, with Samuel and Martha as witnesses, Lena felt a sense of peace she hadn't known since her parents died. This was home. That evening in the small cabin that was now theirs, Bo held her close. "Happy, Mrs. McCade?" he asked, his voice tender. "More than I ever thought possible," Lena replied, her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Outside, the Wyoming night was settling over Sweetwater Ranch. Stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky. In the distance, cattle lowed softly and somewhere an owl called. "We made it," Bo murmured, stroking her hair. "Our own place, our own life, our own choice," Lena added, thinking of how far they'd come from that night in Gravebrush Gulch. Bo's arms tightened around her. "Remember what I said that night? If you needed to run, you should have taken me too," Lena finished, for him, smiling up at her husband. Best advice I ever took. Their future stretched before them, not without challenges, but filled with promise. Together they would build a life at Sweetwater, eventually saving enough for a place of their own. There would be children, laughter, tears, hard work, and joy. But for now, there was just this moment. Just the two of them, safe in each other's arms, having outrun the past to claim their future. Just as the night air in Gravebrush Gulch had once been thick with heat and judgment, the night air at Sweetwater was fresh with possibility and love. and Lena knew with absolute certainty that taking Bo with her had been the best decision of her life.